Radio.
Wow, we're back with another great show for you tonight on Paranormal Review Radio, where we review everything you need to know about the paranormal phenomenon and invite you, the listener, to join in on the conversation. I'm Anthony Agati, broadcasting from New York City, and my co-host Lucy Liefried is broadcasting from Chicago. Say hello, Lucy.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Anthony. Thank you for joining us tonight on our second show. We have a phone number set up for you to call in. We hope you'll join us. That number is 661-244-9831. There's also a chat room on the Blog Talk Radio site. So join us. Join the conversation. Let's talk.
Thanks, Lucy. And thank you all out there for taking time to listen to our show in the middle of all of your Halloween parties this weekend. So tonight's show is about the paranormal field and why it has become so mainstream. Lucy and I will review everything from when recorded paranormal phenomenon started to recent popular shows like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, which, by the way, Lucy and I have both had the privilege of investigating with both Jason and Grant from Ghost Hunters and the guys from Ghost Adventures. And we'll talk more about the experience. Also, recently, Lucy had the opportunity to interview some of the biggest names in paranormal world, like Chris Fleming, Jeff Belanger, and Dave Schrader. We will review when the first mention of paranormal was, when did paranormal investigating begin, why is paranormal considered taboo, ancient paranormal discoveries in art. We will also review paranormal in radio, TV, film, and print, and many other topics. It's going to be an intense review. But before we answer the question, why is the paranormal field so popular, we must first start with the obvious and review what the paranormal phenomenon is all about.
So actually, Anthony, why don't we start with, what is the paranormal? So what do you think,
I don't know,
Anthony?
you tell me.
Well,
you tell me.
The short version, it's something that is beyond or contrary to what is deemed scientifically possible.
But what includes paranormal, though? What is paranormal made up of?
Well, notable paranormal beliefs, they include those that pertain to ghosts, extraterrestrial life, UFOs, cryptids, which is an animal that's not classified by science, something like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, the Chupacabra. Cryptozoology is the study of animals that are rumored to exist, but for conclusive proof is still missing. Scientists they've demonstrated that some creatures of mythology, legend, or local folklore were rooted in real animals or phenomena. Paranormal is also used to describe a wide variety of activity and phenomena. Many people associate the term paranormal as only dealing with hauntings and ghosts, but however, the paranormal also includes things such as telepathy, ESP, faith healing, clairvoyance, and many other subjects.
Well, when did paranormal research begin? Do you know who actually started it?
Well, paranormal research began in the late 1800s and the turn of the century with a gentleman named Charles Fort. And he's actually considered to be the most widely known collector of paranormal stories. Mr. Fort is considered by many as the father of modern paranormalism. Mr. Fort is said to have compiled as many as 40,000 notes on unexplained paranormal experiences. In fact, he wrote 7 books, but only 4 of them survive today. Anthony, you want to know what they're called?
Yeah, go ahead.
These books, one of them is The Book of the Damned, which he wrote in 1919. Another one is called New Lands, 1923. In 1931, he wrote a book called Low, and in 1932, he wrote a book called Wild Talents. He's also credited with coining the term teleportation. So, next thing, Anthony, what is parapsychology? I've never really understood that term.
Well, it's basically like the experimenting and testing of paranormal phenomenon, like card guessing to validate extrasensory perception, sort of like the ESP. You know, somebody will basically stand in front of you, hold up a card facing towards them, and you try and guess either the color, the number, the shape, or the letter. And they did a lot of that testing back in the late 1800s and early 1900s. But there's also three other testing methods within paranormal research, and the first one is participant observer approach, which is basically the participant searches for evidence on their own, basic paranormal investigating. Skeptical scientific investigation, that's debunking all of the claims of paranormal. It could be scientific, it could be water pipes bursting or making clanking noise in your house. That's the skeptical scientific investigation. And animalistics, which is categorizing paranormal stories as hoaxes. There was a Gallup poll in 2005, and it was actually one of, I think there were only two done within the last hundreds of years. And in 2005, they said that 3 out of 4 Americans believe in the paranormal. 3 out of 4. That's 75% of the nation that believes that there is something among us that we cannot explain. There were also some peculiar percentages that came from this, and they found that 37% believe in haunted houses, and 32% believe in ghosts and spirits. 55% believe in the power of the mind to heal the body. 21% believe in witches. 20% believe in reincarnation, and 9% believe in channeling of spirits. Now, there was a poll done in 1990, and I'm not sure actually who did it. I'm not sure if it was a Gallup poll or not, but the percentages for the belief of the paranormal, belief in spirits and ghosts and UFOs, were conducted during that time as well. And from 1990 to 2005, that's a 15-year span, the percentages that the belief that paranormal exists or that there are ghosts and spirits among us had risen 25 to 30% from 1990 to 2005. In 2010, there was another one, and that actually is the most recent poll that was done, and it was done by CBS and Vanity Fair. And from the last Gallup poll in 2005, there was a 10% increase. Now, to me, I think what is happening is that since 1990, there have been more television, there have been more radio shows, there have been more print, books, magazines, and the explosion, obviously, of the Internet, where all of this information, all of the opinions and records and the YouTube videos that are out there, people are just flooding the world with the paranormal. And because of the popularity within the media in all of these aspects, the percentages of the Americans in the U.S. have actually increased close to about 40 to 45% from 1990. I think that is amazing, completely amazing to me.
Well, I think the more that it's being brought to the forefront, I think the more familiar, the more people get to see TV shows, I think the belief follows behind. Actually, I'm curious to see how many of our listeners, what do you believe? I mean, do you have a solid belief in the paranormal? Are you skeptical? I mean, you must be interested. You're here. Let's talk about it. Give us a call. The phone number is 661-244-9831, or jump into the chat room. I mean, I'd really like to know what you think. Because going along, there have been stories, thousands of stories related to paranormal phenomena. I mean, they're found in popular culture. They've been in folklore, including the recollections of individual subjects. In contrast, the scientific community, as referenced in statements made by organizations such as the United States National Science Foundation, they maintain that scientific evidence does not support a variety of beliefs that have been characterized as paranormal. Just today, Jeff Belanger tweeted, "Sometimes a ghost is history demanding to be remembered." So I'm curious, Anthony, what do you think? What do our listeners think? Just what do you believe? What parts do you believe? What part don't you believe?
Well, I think there is, I certainly believe in the paranormal. I know that there is something out there that is unexplainable. I mean, just the age-old question, where did we come from and how did we begin? Yes, scientists and the science world has made discoveries and have put forth evidence on the Big Bang Theory and how we all began here on Earth. But how did the universe get here? I think is a bigger question. How did it all form? I don't know that the people of today, whether they be scientists, skeptics, or just regular people, I don't think that they can fully understand. I don't think that there is the evidence that they are trying to look for that's out there that can actually answer those questions. I still believe, and Lucy, you and I know, we've been in situations where we have had incidents happen to us within the paranormal field that just cannot be explained. And so that's my belief. I fully believe in the paranormal, believe in UFOs, believe in the afterlife, believe in all of that. But we're here tonight to discuss why it has become so popular. And belief is one thing, but to have it broadcasted within radio and television and the film, and even on mainstream news, we just had actually, maybe I think it was 6 months ago, a news report in New York of flying saucers over Manhattan. Now, they obviously teased the audience with the story and came back and said it was actually balloons that were let go. But here they are using the paranormal basically to get listeners to or get viewers to their shows. So, Lucy, I'm going to go back into the topic that we're talking about tonight and get into when the first mention of paranormal started. When did paranormal actually, the word paranormal, come to form?
Well, the word paranormal was introduced to the American vocabulary about 1920. Before that, it basically was called the spiritualist movement, and that began in 1848. So the word paranormal came around, but just exactly, Anthony, when did paranormal investigation start?
There's actually a physical date that can be associated with paranormal investigating. And in my review and in research, I found that March 31st, 1848 is the day that paranormal investigating was formed, created, was given birth. And it was given birth by 3 young girls. They were called the Fox sisters. It was Maggie, Kate, and Leah. And in 1848, they claimed that they were in contact with a spirit, and this spirit was actually someone who the community knew at the time and had passed away. And these girls came out to the public and mentioned to a few folks in the town that they had heard knocking noises and rattling noises, and they were hearing voices of this person that had passed away. They became huge. They were sort of like in the Barnum and Bailey circus. They were toured around the town. They were asked to conjure up this spirit in front of live audience or just a live group of folks, and lo and behold, the audience was amazed when they would hear rattling noises or banging noises. And obviously they weren't hearing voices because the children were saying that it was coming through into their mind. In the early 1880s, they were actually one of the sisters actually came out and confessed and said that it was all a lie. It was all for attention. And the way that they sort of explained how they were able to make these noises, which is pretty amazing, for years they were actually able to manipulate their muscles in their legs, in their lower legs, and move their bones to the point where the bones were actually making cracking noises. And the girls were able to do this, including with their hands as well. They were actually able to manipulate their muscles. And in the early 1880s, they came out and confessed. Now, there's stories that go back and forth that say that the girls did it because the older sister was taking all of their money and they wanted to sort of end it all. And then the story goes back to saying that Maggie actually recounted it and said that, no, we are for real. But the girls in the late 1880s actually became depressed, penniless. They were drunks, and they died in the 1890s. Actually, all the girls died in the 1890s. So it's a pretty funny story where something that is a hoax or something that was proposed as a hoax came to life and created the whole paranormal investigating nature in itself. And that date, again, is March 31st, 1848. Are there any other... Lucy, are there any other... Go ahead, Lucy, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No, so we actually had our first paranormal scandal.
Yeah, we actually did have our own scandal that unfolded, and lo and behold, they were 3 little girls.
Really? So is there anything prior to that? I mean, that can't be the first time that paranormal came to the public's consciousness. I mean, there's got to be other things that have happened.
Well, paranormal investigating did start in 1848, the actual act of conjuring up and searching for, but there have been many, many stories of the paranormal dating back 6,000 and 10,000 years ago. But on record, there are a few that actually have been noted and have been filed away in books. And in the first century, there was a Roman author and statesman, Pliny the Younger, who reported that a ghost with a white beard and rattling chains haunted his house. Later, in 856 A.D., that was actually the first poltergeist that was reported to happen at a farmhouse in Germany. The family reported stones being thrown at them and fire starting, among other things. But the most obvious record history on the paranormal is the Bible. You will find stories about devils, unclean spirits, raising the dead, supernatural healing, and levitation. I mean, Matthew 14:23-31 talks about levitation. It actually talks about the story about Peter and Jesus and when they walked on the water. In Job 4:14-17, it states that Job encountered a ghost brushing across his face and appearing to him in an image that he couldn't see. That's a manifestation of a ghost. That is in the Bible. It just goes back years and years, and it's not something that's new. But I think back then, the paranormal was taboo, and so a lot of times you actually had to sort of write your stories or tell your stories in a way that people didn't perceive it as being paranormal. It was sort of being as a ghost, and so there's a lot of stories within the Bible as well as other books where you get a hint of it, and you kind of sense that it could be, but it's literally not written that way. And some books have been discovered where they've been translated or there have been side notes, and the true stories of the paranormal have come up, but they weren't actually in the black and white in print. And so that leads me to the next question, Lucy. Why was the paranormal phenomenon considered taboo?
Well, I think the paranormal field, it's blossomed from a taboo subject into a full-blown media, television, and movie firestorm. The spirits of those who cannot rest are helping many cash in on what is yet to be accepted by the scientific community. Some shows possibly have incited many to start attending organized religion. So actually the thing that church has, church religion, the things that they consider not so good has actually maybe brought a lot of people back. Some people have, turned to religion to protect themselves from the demons that they insist that are prevalent in many episodes. And a lot of people that are investigating, they claim that they're evil entities. So it is bringing people back to religion. Some of these shows are a little bit more slow-paced. They seem to have evolved as much as the equipment they use, which could mean either way, too much or too little. As we go along, I think there's going to be more and more paranormal activity on television. In the movies, I mean, just recently, Paranormal Activity 3 was the highest grossing opening of all three of the movies, I think, in quite a while. So, this could be looked at as a blessing or a curse. The blessing is that it's opened up the possibility of more dialogue in regards to the unexplained. But it also can damage the paranormal field by contaminating the credibility of those of us who are legitimately searching for answers to the afterlife. It depends how it's presented. I mean, is it presented in an intelligent, informative way, or is it being sensationalized? Is it, someone running around and screaming that there's a demon, or is it actually being presented in a very intelligent, thoughtful way that lets the viewer walk away saying, hey, okay, there's something to it. Again, religion has a lot to do with the taboo. Early on, anything unexplained was considered to be of the devil, and it would give the devil a foothold to enter into your life. Again, bringing more people back to the church, bringing them back to religion. So seeing all this stuff, Anthony, when do you feel it became more mainstream and somewhat acceptable? Because, right now it is acceptable. To a point. It's not completely accepted, but when do you feel that it became more mainstream?
I think it's still considered taboo on some level. It's actually funny to say that in 2011, but it is still taboo. You do get your little stares or those funny faces when you bring up the topic about paranormal to other folks. But, for instance, people may believe in ghosts but not in UFOs. Some people believe in Bigfoot but not in Loch Ness Monster. And so they feel whatever they don't believe in is taboo or odd to discuss or talk about. But since 2004, I think is the marking point in history. 2004 was when ghost hunters exploded onto the television screens in every American home. Before that, there was Most Haunted in England, but for America, Ghost Hunters was the marking point in history in 2004. And that's when television opened up the minds of people to ghost hunting. It didn't seem, or it didn't make anyone feel as though it was taboo because of the sort of scientific and spiritual approach that both the ghost hunters did on their shows. And so the evidence that has been put forth, the idea of the paranormal as a whole has become less and less taboo than ever before. It really has sort of opened up the minds. It actually opened up the box for people to start asking questions now, to start, whether it be the skeptics out there who are debating it and saying, no, it does not exist, come forth and show me the evidence, and or it's the folks that actually say, you know what, I do believe in it. I do believe in a certain part of it, and I'm going to go out and search for it on my own and try and find answers, or I'm going to read up more about it, or I'm going to watch more of that show to find out, and I'm going to make my own decision based on what I'm viewing and what I'm reading and what I'm seeing, because I want to find the truth for myself. There's a lot of times, and I'm sure, Lucy, you do this as well, when we watch Ghost Adventures or you watch Ghost Hunters, you know, there are some things that I don't believe in that they're putting forth as saying is paranormal. I think it's all in the eye of the beholder. I think if you are so into the paranormal field itself that you will believe anything and you're not open-minded, anything that's put forth in front of you, you're going to believe. But to be a true paranormal investigator, researcher, you really have to have an open mind, and you really have to weigh both what is real and what is not real. And so I think that anyone who gets into the paranormal field itself, I think really has to do a lot of research, has to do a lot of history, and keep the mind open. Keep the idea that something just may not be right. You want it to be right, or you want it to be true in what you're seeing or what you're hearing, but keep the open mind. Keep it so that you are a little bit more grounded and that you are able to debate whether or not it's true or false. Because if you believe everything, the credibility of the paranormal field is lost. It truly is lost. There are people out there that will create the hoaxes, create the fakes and the phonies, and you really have to watch out for that, because if you get into that line of believing everything that you see, the credibility as a whole of the community of the paranormal is lost.
Anthony, don't you think as we go along that there are some people that want to experience some type of paranormal activity so badly that they are willing to believe anything that happens? And it goes back to what you said before about the types of investigation, that anything, they'll take anything that happens and it's paranormal. So like you said, the credibility is a little bit damaged. It goes back to the blessing or the curse. I'm looking at the chat room here, and it looks like we've got someone said that they had been going to the same Baptist church for 15 years with no problems. The pastor saw him in a Paranormal Teens T-shirt, and then all of a sudden there was an issue. Like I said, acceptability. There's some people that are not going to accept what's happening. There's other people that want to believe so badly that they're going to accept anything that can really be, that is definitely not paranormal, but they want to experience this so badly that they're going to believe anything. So again, is it a blessing? Is it a curse? The more that it's put out there, the more that it's on TV. I don't know. Our listeners, what do you think? Give us a call. Again, phone number 661-244-9831. How do you feel? What do you believe? Is it more acceptable? Can you talk with your coworkers? Can you stand over the backyard fence and say, hey, you know what? I went on a paranormal investigation this weekend. Can you discuss it? Is it a problem? Is it something that you don't talk to the pastor about? How acceptable is it? Is it, does everyone sit around and watch the latest episode of Ghost Adventures? Tell us, let's talk about it. Personally, I think the more these subjects appear in books, television, movies, even cartoons, the more acceptable they're going to be because they're becoming more familiar. So I think there's going to be an acceptability just because it's up there. And then there's always going to be the group of us that really want to investigate and really want to get to the truth of the matter and are looking for an actual answer rather than being entertained. That's my take on it. Anthony, how do you feel?
We actually have a caller, so why don't we find out how they feel. You are on the line, area code 760.
453-5538.
Yes, you're on the line.
I'm Kimberly Dominique, and my first experience with checking out into the paranormal field was with the ghost box, and I was pretty skeptic at first until I got the ghost box and that I videotaped it. And also, when I was taping it, I didn't realize that a lot of the answers came through the white noise until later. And it kind of blew me away that, what I had heard on TV through Ghost Adventures, that you have to wait until later to hear the answers. And then I went, this is why it was addictive to me, is because I did get a lot of answers, and I've kept I have like 45 sessions of like Class A responses into the white noise when I ask questions recorded. So,
well, Kimberly, how did you begin to start to do the Spirit Box? What made you get into actually buying one and sitting down and turning it on?
First I saw it on TV, and I've always noticed as I grew up that I believed in those kind of things, but kept it quiet because because I'm also psychic, so I wouldn't talk about that. So I was intrigued, so I did this on my own, and I thought, well, I'll just find out by myself. So I ordered it, the radio on Amazon, and got it. And I've had some experiences, like I knew this police officer that was shot and killed, and went over to the place where he was shot and killed, and I have an EVP on that. And when I did the EVP where he was killed, I got residual gunshot noises in the background, his voice. I heard residual, the gunshots were residual noises. I heard a police car saying 10-4, and I don't think I'm at liberty to say what the name of the police officer is right now, but I have, if I'm given permission, I don't know if it's public or not, but I was interviewed.
I would keep it a secret.
Yeah, but I got an instant response, and it just blew me away when I got it. So I know there is another side.
So, Kim, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay. You said before, that, like when, like being psychic and having the experience and stuff, you kept it quiet. So have you been able to open up more? Have you been able to discuss it with people? Is it getting easier, or do you still have to kind of keep it under wraps?
I've always been, as I've gotten older and more secure and done my own research on it, I'm more blunt, and I just go ahead and say how I feel, and I don't care what anybody thinks about it. If they don't like it, some of them do walk away, but now that it's been, the paranormal is discussed on TV, a lot of people are a lot more interested in talking about psychics and EVPs.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's excellent.
They're more accepting, a lot more accepting, and I'm happy to hear that because, I'm 58, so in my day, a lot of people didn't want to hear about it. And I have a lot of friends that have bought all the ghost equipment, and they still haven't tried it out because they're so frightened to use it, to hear the EVPs and get an answer or hear their voice. Mentioned, I've asked for the spirits to say my name, and they've said it clearly, and on several of my sessions. But it's not scary to me at all anymore, really. I don't think I've ever really been afraid. I think that what people call demons really aren't human souls. They're probably from another planet. But I don't think basic human spirits can push things around like something, that had a heavier soul. They say when we die, our souls only weigh about 6 ounces. So we're still in the pioneer days of studying all that, our strengths and weaknesses. So I don't believe in provoking any spirit, whatever it is, and I think that's wrong. So I think whoever does that, they're asking for it. I think that that's kind of pushing the envelope a little bit, but that's just my opinion. But I'm rather nice, and I say thank you when I get answers, when I do these sessions, and I get a better response.
Kim, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
So basically, thank you for calling. Really appreciate it.
She dropped off.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank you, Kim, for that call, and we appreciate that folks out there are continuing to do the research on their own. We just caution that folks do it with the intensity and the purpose of truly finding out the answers to what they're looking for, and to do it hesitantly. The spirit box should not be done at home. It may be a fun tool, or it may just be a simple radio, but you really have to take precaution, and it seems as though Kim really does respect the paranormal field, and is really not afraid herself to say that she dabbles into investigating, and so we appreciate that call. Thank you, Kim.
Hey, Anthony, I really like the fact that she called herself a pioneer. I like that. But I don't think that we're the first people to really get into this. I think as we've gone along, there have been discoveries of the paranormal, basically in art. Anthony, do you have any info on that?
I do. Actually, there's been evidence that has dated back thousands of years. For all of those in Italy, Val Camonica, which is a town in Italy, they have actually a cave painting dating back to 10,000 BC that seems to contain depictions of people wearing these suits holding some sort of strange instrument or some sort of equipment. There's also another cave painting in Sicily, Africa, which dates back 6,000 BC, and it shows human-like figures wearing round helmets, and off to the side there's sort of this disc or round shape in what they're depicting as being the sky. In the 15th century, this one was amazing, and I'm sure people have seen this all over the internet. In the 15th century, there's a tapestry that's called the Magnificent, and it's from France, and it depicts the Virgin Mother Mary holding Jesus, but in the background, over her, I think it's her left shoulder, over her left shoulder, there is this object in the sky, and it looks like today's sightings of UFOs. And off to that same side, there's a mountaintop, and there is a man painted there, I believe with his dog, and he's actually covering his eyes to shield the sun, and he's facing towards that object in the sky. I think that is amazing, and that's from the 15th century. There's also a Yugoslavian fresco entitled the Crucifixion, which was painted in 1350 AD, and it shows two star-like images in the sky, and it's got actually humanoids or people inside them, and they're in a position as though they're in a fighter pilot. And in Egypt, in one of the pyramids, there's a carving of an alien. You have to really look this up. Look up on the internet. You can just type in Google and go to pyramids, alien carving. You have to see this in person. There is a carving in one of the pyramids where it depicts an actual alien. It looks like what you see in Whitley Strieber's book and the movies. It has those elongated black eyes, the huge egg-shaped head, and the long, skinny body. And this is on an Egyptian wall. So it's amazing how this goes back centuries and thousands of years, and yet we're still seeing the same thing, and we're still hearing about the same reports today.
We're not alone, huh? So,
no, I don't think we were ever alone.
In addition to art, part of my research, I came across some unexplained discoveries, and this is going back throughout history. There's, in rural China, there's a thing called the Bayagong Pipes, and this is a mountain location that basically humans can't exist. I mean, it's uninhabitable, and there's 3 openings in the mountainside that seem to contain rustic iron pipes. Now, some of these pipes run deep inside the mountain. Others run to a nearby lake. There's more pipes on the bottom of the lake, and there's pipes scattered along the shoreline. And all of these pipes are cleanly cut. They're not jagged, so they appear to have some kind of use. But this all seems, like it says, if you look at it, you'd say, oh, they're just pipes sticking out of the ground. But this is, when they looked at these pipes, they found out that archaeologists dated the pipes to a time when humanity was just getting familiar with fire. So casting iron was virtually impossible at this time. So some of the UFO people think the pipes were part of some kind of UFO landing site or an alien complex. And they say that these pipes contain silica, which is also found on Mars. It's important to note that silica can be found in a lot of cast iron metals, but they've never determined what the purpose is. They don't know who put them there. They just simply wrote them off as a hoax. But some of those pipes, they date back over 5,000 years ago, and no one's been able to explain how the pipes got there. There's a couple other things. There's some mechanical, it's called a mechanical computer, and that was found, it looks like it's from the 18th century. In Iraq, an archaeological team was digging. They actually discovered things that look like clay pots, but when the archaeologists looked at this pottery, they discovered there's copper wire cemented in the bottom of the pot, and the wire actually had telltale signs of acidic corrosion. So that means that there was probably some kind of acidic solution put into the pot that would interact with the copper. They actually determined that these were batteries. So when they looked at ancient art found in that area, some of this artwork, it shows what appears to be artificial light, but it's not uncommon to the ancient art of that area. So some experts believe that the light could be a depiction of the light of God. But now that they're linking these pictures to the Baghdad battery, which is what they call it, they're suggesting that some of these ancient people actually had access to electricity. Others believe that these people didn't have the knowledge to harness the battery's power to create an artificial light source, and they suggest that the batteries were used by healers and witch doctor types to shock the people as sort of an ancient magic show. But again, no one's determined how it got there, how they thought about it, but we've got battery power way before anybody else has. So leading off from that I thought was really, really cool.
I wonder how much the electric bill was at that time.
They used batteries.
We actually have a call. We actually have a caller, Lucy. Let's take a call. Nina, I believe you're on the line. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, phone is dropped. Well, give us a call back if you can. I think so. Give us a call back if you can. It's 661-244-2614. 9831, 661-244-9831. So when we're waiting to get that caller back, why don't we get into the most infamous, oh, here she is actually again. Here you go. Nina, you're on the line.
Hi, sorry, got disconnected.
Hi.
Hi. So I was calling about the topic, why is paranormal field popular now? I think now,
okay.
Especially since it's on TV, Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, TLC has two retired police officers that are now ghost hunters as well, I believe. I think with all of that on TV, people that believe in it, obviously coming out more and saying, yes, this is what I believe in, but I also think people that had maybe a little spark of interest are delving into it now more so than ever because it is on TV, it is more mainstream.
Well, I think you're exactly right. I think, as a human being, our brains were created in a way to search for cause and effect. We were born in a way to sort of try and figure out what is the meaning of X. And it becomes natural for us that if we are in front of something that is basically non-explainable or has been unexplained, or is known to be unexplained, then we ourselves are geared to try and find out why or what it is. And I think everyone out there now who's watching all of the Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters and the Dead Files, which I believe is the show that you were talking about, it just, again, like you said, sparks that interest in folks to try and find out, is it real or is it not real? I mean, Lucy, do you have a comment on that?
Well, Nina, I was just curious, listening to what you said. Have you found, you've mentioned that, like all the TV shows and that like that, has watching these TV shows, has it changed your perception of what you felt the paranormal was? I mean, before you saw the TV shows, did you have a certain view of it, and has watching the TV shows actually changed what you think?
I'm going to say at first when I started watching them, I was like, is this really happening? Every episode they catch something. I was like, I don't know. But I did have the chance to go on 2 investigations with a few friends of mine, and I actually heard stuff myself with my own ears, and I have to say, now that I watch the shows even more, I really do believe that stuff does happen to them. I don't believe it's all for TV. I mean, maybe some of it is, but I still have that little bit of skeptic in me. I don't know if it's just because I'm afraid to fully believe in it totally, but I heard it with my own ears. It was me hearing it. It wasn't someone on TV listening to it.
So, Nina, can I ask you something? So the first time you heard that isn't it a cool moment when something that you've seen on TV and you watch it and you're saying, I don't know about it, but the first time you actually hear it yourself, isn't that a cool moment?
Well, it's a moment of, did I really hear that? And then you're afraid to say it out loud, like, did anybody else hear that? You're waiting for somebody else to go, did somebody hear something? So when somebody else validates that you hear it, you're like, wow, that's unbelievable. And then my fear instinct kicks in, and then I just want to run. But yeah, awesome. That's the second thing. It's like, wow, I cannot believe that just happened to me. I can't believe I just heard that.
So has it made you want to continue? Do you want to go? Do you want to keep investigating?
Well, I've been on 2, so I've my second one was more intense than the first one. I heard more on the first one. I saw something on the first one, but in my head I'm thinking that just had to be a car or something passing by. It couldn't have been a shadow that I saw. But the second one I heard a lot more. So, I've gone on 2. Will I go on a third? It's possible. It's intriguing. Like, I would love for something. I mean, I don't want anything to touch me or anything because I don't know what I would do then. But I don't know, to like have something get moved in front of me. Like, I would love to see that with my own eyes.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for calling in, and we appreciate you keeping the paranormal life in existence. And it's a good thing that you're a little bit skeptic. You have to be. Like I mentioned before, you have to keep that open mind and question whether or not is it real or is it not. That makes a good paranormal researcher. That makes someone who will be able to weed out the ones that are hoaxing us or the ones that are putting forth fake evidence. And so that's absolutely great. And I hope that you continue on your search and don't get jaded by some of the shows that are out there or some of the radio shows or prints that are out there. We hope that you keep it alive, no pun intended.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Nina. Thanks for calling. Hey, if anybody's out there you want to discuss, you want to tell us about your experiences, or like the next subject that we're going to talk about, the paranormal in movies, TV, radio, and books, if you've got a view on that, give us a call. Number is 661-244-9831. So, Anthony, the next on my list here, paranormal in movies, TV, radio, and books. Let's talk about print publication and books. What do you have? What have you found?
Well, the first instance of quote unquote recorded and published accounts of articles on the subject actually began in 1705 in a pamphlet that was written by Daniel Defoe, and it was entitled "The True Relation of the Apparition of One Mrs. Veal." And it was a story that was very different for Daniel Defoe. He actually was a political writer at that time. He's sort of he fought to sort of bring out the truth in government and tried to infiltrate horrible politicians, folks who were in the government who were not doing their job, basically. He set to unveil the truth behind their story, their life, and their scandals. And so this story, this true relation of an apparition of one Mrs. Veal, was very different for him. But it actually sparked conversation at that time in 1705. And it was written as a protest or as a combative report, basically, against Charles Drelincourt. He published something at that time, which was called The Christian Defense Against the Fear of Dying. And it was written before Daniel Defoe wrote his article. And it talked about the Christian life and how unholy it was, basically, to fear dying, because we all know we're all going to heaven. We all know God is and Jesus is going to be there. And in his article, it talks about a ghost living among us. And that's not something that the Christian and Catholic Church believes in. And this sparked many debates within the community of where he lived. And I just think it's great. I think that, once again, as one of the callers before mentioned, he was a pioneer. And, Lucy, I'm actually loving that name right now, Pioneer. He was a pioneer of the time, and it just shows not that at any moment in history and currently, people are just trying to put forth information and evidence into the mainstream to get it out there, and this Daniel Defoe tried to do just that. Why don't we get on to radio? Radio.
Okay. The first instance of a notable radio broadcast, besides ours, was in 1929 by a man named Joseph Duniger. And he had a show called The Ghost Hour, and it was actually on NBC Radio. Now, on this show, Joseph basically tried to project mental images to listeners, asking them to write in and let them know what the image was. Back then, there wasn't the convenience of a call-in number. He was trying to test the radio waves using paranormal adaptations. Again, the true pioneer of radio broadcast was Long John Noble, who in the late 1970s hosted a late-night show on the supernatural. Anthony, do you have any other notable radio shows that are listed?
Yeah, I mean, Coast to Coast AM. Who doesn't know about that? I mean, not just people in the paranormal community, but I'm sure folks who have watched History Channel or the Bio Channel have seen this guy, George Norrie. He's the host of Coast to Coast AM. And originally, actually, Coast to Coast AM was hosted by Art Bell. Do you remember, Lucy, the infamous Art Bell show when he played what he thought was true evidence of the sounds of hell?
Actually, the hair on my head just stood up when you talked about it. Yeah, I do remember.
It was all over the internet.
Wasn't that the recording that was captured when someone in another country drilled miles into the earth and then they lowered a recorder and they claimed that they got screams and yelling?
Yeah, that's the one. But It's actually been debated, and it's known now as to be a hoax. But again, it sparked interest. It publicized the idea that could that happen? Could that be for real? I personally don't believe it could be for real. I mean, drilling down in the earth to hear hell, I highly doubt that. But I like it. It actually sparked the interest into the paranormal, and whether or not it was true or false, it still brought it to light. The next huge show that Lucy and I both know very well is Darkness on the Edge of Town with our host Dave Schrader. Lucy, why don't you tell us about it?
Uncle Dave. This radio show began in 2006. Now, Dave, we know him personally. He has hosted many of the paranormal investigation events that both me and you, Anthony, we've attended. Actually, the first paranormal investigation I've ever gone on was with Darkness Radio. We both went to Mansfield Reformatory in Ohio. We had the opportunity to go with Dave to the Stanley Hotel in Colorado. We both went to Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia. And Dave's actually hosted these events with the guys from Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures separately. He's on every night. Personally, I consider him a role model. He has been, again, the word pioneer, a pioneer in broadcasting things about the paranormal. It's a really great show. If you get a chance, check it out. Honestly, I don't know what else to say about him. I mean, he's awesome.
He's a very busy man, I can tell you that. But he does host a great show, and he, again, visits the many different levels of the paranormal and presents it so very well that Lucy and I both are sort of intrigued as to his methods and the radio show's methods on bringing forth, again, the idea that, or the many aspects of the paranormal in a true form. He does bring light, he does bring fun to it, but he does bring the information out in the open, and I give him kudos for that, and I hope he continues to keep the radio show going, and hope he keeps the events that he's so well organized to I guess bring more in the future so that we can attend more.
And
Lucy, why don't you talk about television?
Television. Okay. Of course, we have Rod Serling's Twilight Zone. That was a dramatic theatrical depiction of paranormal phenomenon. It was basically the first televised paranormal show that documented and debated the concept of the paranormal. This one was hosted by the one and only Mr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy. The show was called In Search Of. That show basically explored the topics of the paranormal, like UFOs, ghosts, cryptozoological creatures, lost civilizations, many other mysteries. It kind of lost popularity, but we're seeing the resurgence again with other shows, like basically right now we've got Destination Truth, there's Fact or Fake, again, the ghost hunting shows. For a while there, the paranormal was like so acceptable that we had a few comedies that came up to deal with the paranormal. We had The Addams Family. This was a comedy about a family with different paranormal qualities. It ran from September of 1964 to about April of 1966. Everybody remembers The Munsters. This was another comedy about a family with a Frankenstein dad, a vampire grandfather, and a mom, a werewolf son, and a dragon under the stairs. Now, this one ran from September 64 to May of 1966. And then we had Bewitched, and this was a comedy about, what else, witches. And this one ran from 1964 to 1972. So there's always been, in the recent past, there's always been some show that's kind of either touched on it or kind of like featured it. Again, currently now we've got all these other shows that are to do with ghost hunting, the paranormal, but they're out there. I'm curious to see what our listeners watch. What do you watch? Is there anything in particular that you enjoy, that you watch, other than the ghost hunting shows? Give us a call, 661-244-9831. Anthony, tell me about film.
Film. I'm actually going to run through this quickly because I want to get to another topic, but film. Can you believe that in the early 1890s there was a short film that actually could be called the first paranormal film ever? It was done by a film pioneer by the name of George Méliès, and he was most notable for his 1896 short film, and I hope I don't kill this, Les Manoirs du Diable, The House of the Devil. And it was actually credited as being the first horror film in 1896.
Wow.
There's been so many other notable films like Nosferatu, The Wolfman, The Thing from Another World, The Exorcist, which is my favorite movie, Alien, The Lost Boys, Blair Witch Project, and then you've got, of course, Paranormal Activity and The Fourth Kind. There's just been so many movies out there that either have gone completely over the edge or show a true depiction of what paranormal is all about. And again, dating back to the 1890s, that was the launch pad for everything, for movies, for television, for radio, and for the internet. And we thank George Méliès for bringing forth and creating what we have right now. And we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for these, and I love that term, pioneers from back in the 1800s. I actually want to get into, Lucy, Orson Welles. Does everybody know who Orson Welles is? He is the gentleman in the 1930s who put on air a prank. And on October 30th, he and Howard Koch and a team of radio personalities and actors, they pranked the entire nation into believing that Martians were invading New Jersey of all places, and taking over the world. His mock news bulletins and reporters on the quote-unquote scene led people to fear that the world was ending and the aliens were killing people. the nation stood still with fear, and some even began reacting by fleeing their homes. I have to play you a clip because this was amazing to me that a man on the radio actually caused mass hysteria in America. And it all revolves around a novel by H.G. Wells called War of the Worlds, and reenacted that on air as though it was a live breaking news story. And I want to play this for you just to infiltrate your memories a little bit.
We are bringing you an eyewitness account of what's happening on the Wilmuth Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. We now return you to Carl Phillips at Grover's Mill.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmuth's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit. About 30 of them. No need to push the crowd back now. They're willing to keep their distance. The captain's conferring with someone. Can't quite see who. Oh, yes, I believe it's Professor Pearson. Yes, it is. Now they've parted, and the professor moves around one side, studying the object, while the captain and two policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. Flag of truce. If those preachers know what that means, what anything means. Wait a minute, something's happening. A humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Lord, they're turning into flames. The whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks, and the automobiles spreading everywhere. It's coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
It's amazing that people believe
That's
that
awesome.
that this was the truth and caused mass hysteria all over the world, not just New Jersey. I'm sorry, all over America, and not just New Jersey. And it to me now, at this moment in time, it's actually pretty funny. But I'm sure people were scared out of their knickers that they were hearing this on the radio.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. So where do you want to go from here? Let's talk about some paranormal stories in history. I mean, the Orson Welles broadcast, of course, that's part of history. That's part of radio history. But what are some of the most popular paranormal phenomena stories in history, and where do they come from? I mean, everything couldn't just happen here in New Jersey. I'm sure there's stories from around the world.
Oh yeah, there's been in England, in D.C. There's been so many stories out there. One of which in England dates back to the 16th century. Anne Boleyn, which is the second wife of King Henry VIII and the mother of Queen Elizabeth I, was executed at the Tower of London in May 1536 after being accused of witchcraft, treason, incest, and adultery. And sightings of Boleyn's ghost have been reported at the Tower as well as in various other locations, including her childhood home, Hever Castle in Kent. Why don't you give us some more stories on the history?
Well, in America, we've got our own rich tradition of historical ghosts. Benjamin Franklin, beginning in the late 19th century, Franklin's ghost was seen near the library of the American Philosophical Society in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Some reports held that the statue of Franklin in front of the society comes to life and dances in the streets. The White House in Washington, D.C., over the years, is reported to be haunted. Abraham Lincoln makes an appearance. Let's see. We've got, we've got a picture right here in Illinois, Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. There's a picture taken in 1991 by a woman named Mari Huff. It shows an apparition of a woman sitting on a tombstone in Tombstone, Arizona. There's the cowboy ghost. There was a gentleman named Ike Clanton who decided it was going to be cool. He wanted to get dressed up. He wanted to look like one of the cowboys. And they took a picture of him. And if you go on the Internet, you can see this picture. He's standing in the foreground, and he's looking at the camera. But if you look in the background, in the field, you'll actually see a person standing there that's got a black cowboy hat, and he's in there. And according to the photographer, according to Mr. Clanton, there was nobody there. Let's see, the brown lady. This is going back to England. This is considered to be the most famous ghost picture of all time. It's a picture of a staircase in Raham Hall in Norfolk, England. The picture is taken in 1938, and the story goes that a husband and wife lived in Raham Hall, and the wife cheated on him. The husband supposedly kept her prisoner in the home, and he tortured her until she died. The photograph does show a woman in a long flowing gown and headdress coming down the stairs. There's other stories. There's stories that come from the Civil War. Gettysburg has a lot of stories. The Devil's Den. There's stories from Native American folklore. There's stories about accident sites. God, there's so many. Anthony, is there anything in particular that you found that you thought was really intriguing?
No, I think the picture that you mentioned, the brown lady, is I think one of the most iconic pictures that you will ever see on the internet. And I dare everybody out there to just Google brown lady paranormal picture. And I'm sure everybody has seen this picture all over. I mean, personally, I thought before doing this research that that picture was faked just for some sort of graphic image. But lo and behold, when I did my research, I found out about the true story behind it. And so to me, that's one of the amazing photographs that I remember. But, Lucy, we're running a little bit out of time. We've only got about 17 minutes left, and I want to jump ahead to a book called Paranormal Obsession. And then, Lucy, I want to get into some of the interviews that you did at the Chicago Ghost Conference. So let me get into Paranormal Obsession. I want to introduce a book that I recently bought this week. It's called Paranormal Obsession. It's written by Deanna Kelly Syed, and it's called Paranormal Obsession, America's Fascination with Ghosts and Hauntings, Spooks, and Spirits. And it is an amazing book. Spend the $15, $16 out there, guys, and buy this book. It will give you everything that you need to know about paranormal pop culture and why it's such a fascination right now. And it's the first book that was written to explain why there is this obsession, or should I say, why there are people so passionate about the paranormal and what has created this craze. Deanna touches on so many different topics like how religion, American roots, television, radio, and print, her experience as an investigator, actually as a Muslim American investigator. She was also a cast member on Ghost Hunters and on Paranormal State, and she talks also about the future of the paranormal media obsession. And although there are a lot of references to the show's show Ghost Hunters and Paranormal State, I feel that Deanna is fair to all of the media representing the paranormal in her deductions and references. I just want to play a little clip. It's a little promo that she created herself, Deanna created herself, in regards to promoting her book, Paranormal Obsession. So take a listen.
Hi, my name is Deanna Kelly Syed. I'm the author of Paranormal Obsession, America's Fascination with Ghosts and Hauntings, Spooks, and Spirits. Paranormal Obsession isn't a collection of ghost stories or personal experiences, although some of that is in there. But it's more of a cultural commentary on what ghost hunting means in a post-9/11 American society. A lot of people ask me what motivated me to write this book. I wanted to ask the question of why so many people around the world have responded to paranormal reality TV and took up the intrepid journey of ghost hunting. So many people have found paranormal reality TV to be the gateway to a very powerful, personal, transformative journey. Paranormal Obsession attempts to explore these questions with the help of cast members from various TV shows, academics, parapsychologists, clergymen, and investigators from around the country. The book looks into the impact of paranormal reality TV, not only on those who hunt ghosts, but also on the discussions we're having as a society around religion, science, and cultural identity. Media, science, and religion.
When I first started to do my research on the topic for tonight's show, there was little on the internet and print regarding the reason for this new paranormal obsession within American culture, and for that matter, for any culture around the world. It's almost as if the idea of the paranormal fascination or a rise in paranormal acceptance was being denied. Any of the information out on the web consisted of personal opinions from investigative groups, and to be honest, most of the blogs and reports, I sadly have to report that they were bashing other investigative groups. I mean, it's just disgusting to me that all of the banter and all of the bad-mouthing out there on the internet, it just needs to end. All it does is create a discredit to the community, and it just has to end. So when I found Deanna's book, it was a relief to finally be able to actually get a real, fair, and comprised reading on the topic. I highly recommend getting this book if you're interested in knowing about the field, learning about why the paranormal field has grown and where it may possibly be heading. So I don't know, Lucy, if you had a chance to actually read the book. I don't know if you had any comments that you wanted to add to that, but the floor is yours if you want to.
Well, actually, I did pick up the book, and I did on your recommendation, and I found it to be very informative. I mean, she does, you can tell that she has an affiliation with TAPS, but she's also very fair to other people that she mentions. She does give what I consider an unbiased view of the paranormal, I don't know if you want to call it the paranormal, not exactly the paranormal world, but the principles that are involved in the field. So speaking of principles, actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to move on to, I got the opportunity about 3 weeks ago to go to the Chicago Ghost Conference. And while I was there, I got the opportunity to speak with some people and ask them what they believe, why they believe the paranormal is popular. And basically, Anthony, if you have the first clip, is actually from Chris Fleming, who is a well-known medium, psychic. We've both had the opportunity to investigate with him out at the Stanley. And Chris was good enough to speak with me and give me his perspective on why the paranormal is popular. So if you could play that.
We're at the Chicago Ghost Conference. I'm here with Chris Fleming, and I'm asking him why he feels that the paranormal world is so popular.
Well, I think it's something that's just come to our consciousness, that people are coming out and expressing it, and it's held an interest because we're dealing with a new type of science that's not fully understood. TV, I think, has helped a lot. In some ways it has over-dramatized it a little bit, but it doesn't matter. The results are still there, and the things that are still happening. Ghosts have existed since the beginning of time. That has not gone away. And if we take a look at this study and research involved, we've only seen maybe leaps within the last 50 years regarding this, but because of TV, bringing it to a media and public awareness, it's caused people to express more of an interest and go out there, whether it's a hobby or it becomes a life passion, to find out more of what's going on. The thing is I'm seeing is that with this field, the engineering and designing of a lot of different pieces of equipment and what people are implementing out in the field is going to be in the forefront of science. Scientists are really, unless some have already discovered it and just haven't come forward, is paranormal researchers are the one that is going to establish the communication and going to create something. We're very close to, we're on the cutting edge of establishing full communication with the other side. Now, if we take a look at science doesn't really fund to do all that, and they don't put a lot of time and effort into it unless there's something that's done on a secret project that we don't know about. But paranormal researchers and ghost hunters are going to be the one that's going to establish that. And like I said earlier, we're dealing with something that's been around for thousands of years. You look at psychology, which is really only a study of the mind and brain. It's not the study of ghosts or paranormal stuff or outside the environment, but psychology is still new. It's only been around for 100 years, and people need to remember that. Philosophy, of course, has been around for 2,000 years, but that's not psychology. So ghosts have been around a lot longer before science, a lot longer before psychology. They've always been there in all types of myths, legends, stories, and even history, whether it's dealing with the Egyptians, whether it's dealing with the Mayans, whether it's dealing with any type of culture dating back to the beginning of time, even the Sumerians. So we have something that has not gone away. And because of that, it's real. And people have...
Go ahead, Lucy.
Actually, in addition to Chris, there's one other clip that I'd like that if we could get in real quick. It's Jeff Belanger. Jeff Belanger is actually a writer on Ghost Adventures. He is the creator of 30-Odd Minutes and Ghost Village on the Internet. Anthony, if you have that clip, can we play that one?
What were you saying?
Okay, I'm here at the Chicago Ghost Conference. I'm with the one and only Jeff Belanger.
Hey!
And I am asking him why he feels that the paranormal field is so popular.
It's popular for a lot of reasons. Number one, we're just so cool. I mean, look at us. We're awesome. We wear really funky clothes. We love black. Very slimming. No, it's popular for a lot of reasons. One is that we somehow went from spirituality right into pop culture, and that's been going on for, centuries really, but every time the world's in turmoil, people turn to alternative spirituality. And that happened in the Civil War, it happened in World War I, World War II, and it's happened since 9/11. So you've got people turning to alternative spirituality. You've got large religious institutions that don't quite have the hold on society that they used to. But I think spirituality is a basic need, so people are still looking for it. Some of us get it in an old, creepy, abandoned building with an EMF meter. It goes off and we say, wow, I just touched something spiritual. We may be wrong, but it doesn't matter. It's a feeling, it's a feeling and emotion. And so combine that with the ghost story, which is a formula, a legend that goes back for as long as there have been people talking. And you've got a recipe for something that speaks to a real primal part of everybody. So a TV show comes on, Ghost Hunters back in 2004, other shows come on, Ghost Adventures, Paranormal State, all these other things. And I think the reason those shows work is because it speaks to that part of us that go, I kind of want to go someplace and have that experience too. I want to be scared. I want to see and touch and feel that thing on the other side. And that's what's gotten so popular, is the people understanding that some of us love to do that, and deep down they want to do it for themselves too. And so it just snowballs on itself, and here we are, somehow us weird, geeky, freaky, paranormal people got cool somewhere along the way. We should enjoy it while it lasts, because it can't last forever.
Thank you.
Too long.
So basically what I got from those interviews is my conclusion, I think the paranormal world is here. I think it's here to stay. I don't know if the tide is turning on it, because I think the interest is always going to be there. People are always going to search for answers. And, in doing my research and everything, I'm still looking for answers. So, that's how I feel about it. Anthony, how do you feel about it? I mean, in conclusion, after doing all the research and listening to everything, just what's your take on it? What did you come away with from doing your research?
Well, personally, I think to ask the question, is the paranormal field on its rise or downfall, is not a fair question to ask at this point. It's almost like saying to a 2-year-old, what are you going to be when you grow up? The paranormal field is still growing, and it's constantly changing and adapting to new cultural feedings and scientific teachings more than ever. Sure, paranormal phenomenon is not a new concept or a new quote-unquote religion, but it has never been so exposed, adored, debated, and accepted as it is right now. That is all thanks to television, radio, and the Internet. I mean, now whether any or all of these media resources are giving it a bad reputation, it's a moot point. It's still getting the recognition it has deserved. As human beings, our brains desire naturally instills the need to find cause and effect in everything we feel, hear, see, taste, and smell. The need to search out what we don't understand is to be human. So to be inquisitive about the paranormal, since it has not been scientifically proven, creates the hunger that many people need to feed and makes us who we are designed to become. I don't think the paranormal phenomenon is on its way up or on its way down. I feel it's changing and metamorphosizing into something new and leading a path to a greater knowledge for all of us on a personal level. Each of us want to know what happens when we die, and if believing in something that helps you fall asleep at the end of the day, it's worth all of the discredits, the odd stares that all of us receive, then to me, I'm happy. Now, in the last 15 years, with advancements in the technology field, more and more pieces of equipment are being built to help validate some of the claims and experiences people have encountered. Bill Chappelle is one of the greatest inventors out there in the paranormal field, and he has put together some fascinating pieces of paranormal equipment, like the PX box that Lucy and I have used frequently when ghost hunting and had amazing results with. In time, these advancements in technology will only get bigger and better, and one day will lead to scientific recognition. But until then, my belief and my hunger for the truth will keep going. You know, it wasn't long ago that scientists thought that the Earth was expanding from inside its core, which was the reason for continental shifts. I mean, come on. The scientific theory was proven wrong only 40 years ago. So we're new. It's still new. Paranormal is still new to us. And I believe in years to come, hopefully sooner than later, scientists and the scientific community will recognize paranormal for what it is. That's my conclusion, Lucy.
But basically, we are pioneers. Hopefully what we've brought to you tonight has caused you to think, maybe open a discussion, maybe talk to somebody about it, but there's no denying that the paranormal field is a big, wide-open prairie. I mean, there's a lot to be discovered, there's a lot to be explored, and it's an amazing journey. And if we have helped you open up on that journey, then good. You know, hopefully we'll talk to you, you know, on different shows about different fields. But tonight was such a huge subject that, you know, I know we didn't touch on everything, but hopefully we touched on something that will affect you, that will cause you to think. Anthony, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, I think I want to go out with a little quote. Ancient Egyptians believed that upon death they would be asked two questions, and their answers would determine whether they would continue their journey in the afterlife. The first question was, did you bring joy? And the second question was, did you find joy? Well, I hope everybody found joy and found entertainment in this radio show, because I know Lucy and I both have had fun putting this on today and tonight. And so we hope that the topic that we had tonight sort of intrigues you to do a little bit more research on your own, or maybe it's just to watch more Ghost Adventures at night. So we just want to thank you all for joining in tonight. And Lucy, do you want to give a little bit of a teaser for next week's show?
Next week, if I want you all to think about a particular question, because if you call me next week, I'll be doing mini readings with tarot cards. So give us a call. You know, like I said, tune in next week. Think of a particular question. We'll talk. I'll pull 3 cards for you, and let's see if the cards give us an answer.
Thanks, Lucy. Thanks, everybody out there. Have a great night and happy Halloween.
Good night.